king of sports books comes the king of sports podcasts. Unleashed. Presented by BetMGM. Here's your hosts, Jerry Ferrara and Olivia Harlan Dekker.
Jerry, the preseason is finally over, and guess what, my friend? You made the cut. You made it. We're keeping you for the season for the next 5 months. Plus, we've got very meaningful NFL games every weekend to look forward to, which means a lot of bets to be made. What do you think? You excited?
I'm excited. I'm glad I made the team. My hard knocks of the first 3 episodes of Unleashed, I didn't get called to the coach's office to bring my playbook, so I'm here.
No.
And yeah, doing this show is amazing, and we haven't even started to have like meaningful content to discuss, like and break down and get into. We're just like waiting, so this is great. Yes, preseason's over. Thank God.
Yeah, and I don't mean to be rude when I ask this, but how old are you?
I'm 42 years old. Right today, I look 49 years old. 42 years old.
No, so you're still so young. You've got 3 years, according to Tom Brady, till you really have a lot of shit going on. So what do you think about that quote? Could he feel him on that?
Yeah, Olivia, you're still young, and I mean that with all due respect. I feel everything that Brady said. Like, that's kind of what I say at some point out loud every day. We got a lot of shit going on. That comes out of my mouth every day. So I completely understand. It's what we said last week. Like, leave the guy alone. Who cares? He's 45 years old.
But what do you think he means by that? What's your conspiracy theory? Everyone's got one.
I don't even really have a conspiracy theory. I read that as, I got kids of various ages and different, 2 different women with moms, and, I'm on Tampa, but I live here. I just think he has a lot of shit going on. Maybe he took an extended vacation. I don't know. Who knows? I don't have any conspiracy theories. I just take that as 45-year-old man, father, football player life.
Mm-hmm. You know what I like is he's being so real, so honest. And for a guy who's worth so much money, so good looking, supermodel wife, any man would envy Tom Brady. And I think a lot of guys especially were like, yes, I understand you. For the first time, we're on the same page.
I mean, for all we know, he could have been trying to pry Gronk out of Vegas or something, wherever Gronk is. Maybe he could have, like, you can't put it past Brady to have been on a secret mission. Maybe he's trying to bring Calvin Johnson out of retirement. Who the hell knows what he was doing? So, yes, I think he has other concerns because the New Orleans Saints are starting to get real trendy in the South. We don't have to we're not ready for all that breakdown stuff yet, but, like, I think he knows that it's not foreseen that Tampa's going to run away with the South. I think the South's going to be tougher than we all expect.
Oh, yeah. Plus, his offensive line is all banged up. His starting center, his backup center, 2 interior guards, a backup guard. He's got issues on the football field, too, but it sounds like he's got them off as well. Hey, I thought about you today when I read a headline. New York Knicks guard RJ Barrett finalizing 4-year rookie extension worth up to $120 million, but that ends a 23-year drought for the Knicks. He's the franchise's first draft pick to agree to a multi-year contract extension after his rookie deal since 1999. But you know the implications of this. What are your thoughts in regards to the deadline that the Knicks gave Donovan Mitchell?
So, look, this has been a saga that has taken up more of my time than anything Hard Knocks could have brought me, the RJ Barrett extension. I do hate that it's still part of the Mitchell trade now. Like, you can't just celebrate the first round pick contract extension in however many years. But, and I won't take too much on this, what a poker stare down going on between Leon Rose and Danny Ainge. She gave him a clock. He said, Monday night, I'm taking him off. And that is exactly what it is. RJ Barrett is off the table. We've only seen this poison pill. And believe I've been researching what this poison pill contract thing is exactly and what it means. And not to bore our listeners with what it means, but it basically makes RJ really hard to trade. Really, really hard to trade. So he's almost taken off the table. I guess it still could happen. And Woj was talking all about how it could still happen. But I like it. I know Ainge is trying to get RJ, Grimes, 6 unprotected first. Like, I just like that he drew a line in the sand and called all the bluffs. And now you're starting to already hear like, oh, now Ainge has to go back to the Tyler Hero deal. Maybe Miami does the same extension with Tyler Hero, which would be incredible. Put him in this position with no options. I loved it. I love RJ. I never wanted RJ traded. Never did I want RJ a part of this trade. I think trading for Mitchell, part of that is pairing him with RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, Jalen Brunson. If you're not going to do that, I don't ultimately see the full value of trading for him right now. So that's my Knicks, RJ, Donovan rant.
I like it. I didn't know how you'd feel about it because I know you were
very
excited
about Donovan Mitchell. I wish we would have drafted him when we had the chance. I would love him to be on the Knicks. Going way back, but I still have the scars of the Melo trade, which I loved getting Melo, but giving up every single asset we have and then not having a whole lot for Melo to play with hurt my feelings. So I love the job that the Knicks front office is doing.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. No, you're a little traumatized. I think Knicks fans in general, you guys have a long history of poor decision making, of a lot of divas, and you got your hands full. You got a lot of shit going on. You're 42.
I'm telling you, I'm going to say that later today at around 6 o'clock for no reason at all, other than there's a lot of shit going on. As long as Brady's not on The Masked Singer, we're good. If that's what it was, then we're going to have some problems on Unleashed next week.
Well, I got a lot of shit going on too. As you know, I just got to London, so our time difference is kicking in here. I'm going to be living here for the season. My husband Sam's playing basketball over here. And speaking of a lot of shit going on, I flew here alone with our 3-month-old baby. And we were talking before the show about that. And that is no small feat. But you said this is the time to do it, right? I mean, parents listening are probably
I think it is the time to do it. I think before the baby's mobile and wants to walk up and down the aisle and say hi to everyone and do all that, it's your best chance of having a relatively peaceful flight. You did it. You made it. Your backdrop looks amazing. London looks good in your background.
Have you spent much time in London, though?
Yeah, and I did love it. What I saw, that we were promoting the Entourage movie. We had a big London premiere. Right when we landed, got really sick. I had like the flu, 103 fever, went right into bed, but I was still working, doing press. So every day they're like wheeling me out. It would never happen in today's day. They're wheeling me out. I'm doing an interview. They're putting me back in a bed. 3 days like that. My wife is all over London, gallivanting, having the greatest time. I had one thing I wanted to do in London while I was there. I mean, many, but I wanted to go to the Winston Churchill War Room Museum. It's his underground bunker that he ran the country from during World War II. We finally go when I'm finally better. We were there for 15 minutes and my wife is telling me, we got to go. We're going to see some park. I'm like, no, this is where I want to be. Our first argument as a couple, we're only 2 years into the relationship, happened in the Winston Churchill War Room. And she made me leave after 20 minutes. I wanted to stay for 2 hours. 20 minutes pulled me out of the war room. First argument as a couple.
Oh, no. God. And to think of all the arguments that happened in that room and that you lost yours.
I lost the war in Winston Churchill's war room. Yes.
Oh, gosh. Oh, that's horrible. Hey, speaking of something cool you did, especially as Entourage movies and whatnot were coming out, I didn't really realize this. We were talking earlier. You were on ESPN's
and look,
College Game
we
Day.
discussed this a little last week. I put it out on social media. My loyalties for a college football team. We'll get there. I really need something to get me through this year besides who I place some wagers on. But yeah, my only real experience at a big time college football game and experience, they asked me to come do the picks on College Game Day. And I didn't really know what it entailed. I obviously knew that show is huge and it's
so cool.
A cultural thing for sure. So yeah, not knowing what that entailed, it was actually the Wisconsin-Nebraska game. This is going back 10 years ago. I think Russell Wilson was a senior.
Wow.
So I get to Camp Randall and they put me in a trailer and, going through the pre-show stuff. And I walk out of that trailer to, I don't know how many thousands. This must be what it feels like to be a college athlete. Thousands of people chanting my name as if I was the starting quarterback for the Badgers. It was incredible. Sat up there, did the picks. Of course, I picked Wisconsin because I was scared to get booed by all the fans at Camp Randall. But yeah, it was the most intimidated I've ever been in any type of media situation in my whole career. College Game Day Live.
Well, now picking games, this was before gambling was widespread legal across the country. So when they were picking games, it wasn't from a gambling perspective. Now, of course, they can incorporate that in the broadcast. I know at my time at ESPN, we always laughed. It was like the elephant in the room because we would all know the point spread, but you can't really say it. And then, if they're going for two, we're all kind of tongue in cheek, like, oh, this is going to upset some people, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you said you're a veteran gambler. So at the time, you had to have known what you were talking about when you were picking teams.
I did. I think I had to make a conscious effort not to be. Yeah, I like. I like the point. Like nothing like that.
Yeah,
I think saying you like the points or stuff like that. And of course, Lee Corzo took the opposite team and they booed him.
Yep.
And and then we went. That's why I didn't go to a big time college. I went after the game to the K Club or whatever they have at Wisconsin where everyone goes to drink. I was like a college kid for 2 days. Yeah, the KK. Thank you. Never got to experience any college campus life. So for 2 days I had it and it was wonderful.
I think Madison is one of the best college campuses in the country. I've got to put my alma mater up there with it. Athens, Georgia, UGA, reigning national champs. So have you ever been to Athens, by the way?
I haven't, but I really feel your energy. I just, you have to be crazy excited for college football to kick off. I mean, I know it kicked off technically, but to really get going, because you got a squad too to look forward to.
Oh yeah. I've covered college football for years, mostly on the sideline. Now, the last 2 years, I really just do the SEC championship on the sideline, which is amazing because my alma mater usually makes it to that game. I saw them win a couple years ago. They lost last year to Alabama before winning the national championship. But the SEC championship is always the appetizer to the national championship. So both have that same energy. I've been at both, and my God, it's so exciting. And watching your alma mater win is just such a good feeling when they hadn't won for, 30 years or something. And it just 40 years. And it just was so much fun to watch. But, we have a guest coming on who's going to give us a great preview. Sports Illustrated writer, Pat Forde. He has an amazing podcast. I never miss it. I'm going to ask him all about it. But he just had the cover story for SI on Georgia's quarterback, Stetson Bennett. Did you read that?
I did read it. What an amazing story. So well written, but just, you really felt like you were along on that little brief journey. Yeah, it was great. I encourage everyone to read that article if you haven't read it already.
It's so good. But see, that's why people love college football. And sometimes college football fans and NFL fans don't overlap. There's such a kind of wholesomeness about college football and pageantry and generational fandom and all of this. Now it's getting a bit watered down now that money's coming into the equation with NIL and the transfer portal, and there's a lot to get to. So we'll pick Pat Forde's brain on that. But first, we got to find you a college football team, man. You can't just sit back all season hosting the show with me and not have a college football team.
So I did put it out on Twitter. I got some really good recommendations, and I'm curious to hear yours if you have any recommendations. And maybe we could talk to Pat Forde about it too. I'm sure he'll have some insight. I will say I had a crazy thought, and something did happen when I was up in Detroit again at one of these charity golf tournaments this past week. Living in Cleveland, family full of Buckeye fans. Obviously, so many of them went to Ohio State, and that's really what the city and the state, they love their Browns and their Bengals and all that, but Ohio State, I'm thinking about going full heel turn and maybe picking a rival of Ohio State. I feel like the easy thing to do is fall in love with your team-in-law and go Buckeyes. That's so easy. No emotional connection for me. I'm thinking about going rogue. Just up in Detroit. So that's a sneak preview of how I'm getting. So I am getting swayed by people who have Wolverine blood in them.
No.
Thinking about going full heel turn in the Ferrara house. Full heel turn.
Oh, I mean, you're married with 2 kids. It's not like you can piss off your in-laws to the point where they change their mind about you at this point. So, I mean, what do you got to lose? Oh, horrible take. Yeah. I thought I was going to try to convince you to come to Madison now that I know that you did game day up there. Madison's such a great town. I thought maybe I could get you on the Badger bandwagon.
Yeah, it's out there. I mean, I don't know. There's been a lot of great recommendations. I know, You and I even talked off the air about like maybe the like Maryland Terrapins. I thought that was your recommendation, right? Because of the like turtle
It is
kind of
the turtles,
symbolicness
terrapins.
and
Or
yeah,
yes,
that's
that's my
definitely there.
recommendation.
That's a good one. And then obviously, yeah. Well, you got any other recs for me before we maybe ask Pat?
Okay, you seem like a guy who really is into footwear. So what about Oregon? You can always have a clean pair of Nikes on. You could talk to Phil Knight, maybe get on the sideline.
If they keep the steady flow of product coming into the Ferrara house that I've enjoyed over the years, I could definitely go that way for sure.
Okay.
Very West Coast for me though. I don't know. I'm such an East Coast guy, but I could definitely do that. I'm telling you right now, the Wolverines are leading because I really want to be the enemy now. I think that'll be the most fun for me.
I got another one.
I got invited to practice. Okay.
Okay. I mean, that's cool. Well, if you still want to go the opposite direction, stay in Ohio, how about University of Cincinnati? They're a team right there on the cusp of national prominence. They made the college football playoff last year.
Yeah, I could definitely get into that. I don't think that's a big enough heel. I think if you're going to do Cincinnati, you should just go full enemy and go absolute rival of the Buckeyes. I think that's not quite enough, although they're a very, very good team on the way up. So, yeah, I'm leaning Michigan. I got invited to practice yesterday. Full experience.
By who?
They said they'll put me front. I'm being wooed.
Who invited you?
I'm not unnamed source. This is what my co-host has taught me over the years. And also something else that came out of Detroit, an unnamed source told me that the Seahawks are not going to win that division. And it's someone who knows a lot more about football than I do.
Oh, we got to talk with Peter Andreu about that at the end, because last week you had you caused some ripples when you said they were going to win the division, but yeah, there's more to get to on that story. Let's go ahead and bring in our guest, because we got to find you a college football team, and I think he's just the guy to do it. Let's get to Pat Forde. He's an award-winning journalist who's covered college sports for over 3 decades. Oh my gosh, he spent more time on campus than a fifth-year senior. Sports Illustrated senior writer Pat Forde. Thanks so much for being here, Pat. I got to say, your podcast is one I don't miss. I've listened to for years. I feel like I know you and Dan. I laugh so hard every time I listen to it. I've survived rotating hosts, rotating names, the Chicken Wars, People's Court, the College Football Inquirer. Everyone should check out this podcast as the college football season is starting. You can thank me later. You genuinely seem to have a lot of fun doing it. I know you love this league so much. It's never changed as much as it has in the last couple of years, from the playoff, transfer portal, NIL. What keeps you coming back to college football?
Well, actually that exactly, Olivia, is the fact that it is nonstop entertainment. There is something crazy, ridiculous, absurd happening all the time. The off season is really not even much of an off season anymore. Between, if you go back to 2020 and COVID, were we even going to play? Were we going to have a season? Then last year, I was actually in Tokyo at the Olympics, and all of a sudden Texas and Oklahoma decide, we're leaving and going from the Big 12 to the SEC. And then this year, you have USC and UCLA going to the Big 10. And then, as you mentioned, transfer portal, NIL. I mean, it's a great sport, but it's a mess. And keeping up with the mess is actually, keeps the job fresh. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And with no real governing body, as you guys always talk about on the show, it's a wild, wild west in college football. But what's your biggest fear as these things are evolving? What's your biggest fear with NCAA moving forward?
I think that football's going to swallow everything, including itself, in terms of what's best for the sport. It's going to swallow basketball. It's going to harm the Olympic sports. But in the quest for revenue, I think it'll harm itself too. I don't think it's a good development to have USC and UCLA playing in the same conference with Maryland and Rutgers. It doesn't make sense. College football is at its best when you have every region of the country involved and following their schools or their leagues, and then seeing how they do against the other leagues when you get to bowl games and into the playoff. And if you just turn this into the AFC and the NFC, basically, and everybody else is kind of cast to the side, that takes away what's unique about college football, what's different from the NFL. The NFL is an awesome product, but we don't need 2 NFLs. We need something distinct and separate, and I think that we are at a great risk of really losing the fabric of what makes that sport different at that level.
Pat, how do you see teams now fundraising, ultimately getting money to athletes as part of, NIL recruiting? And for someone who hasn't kept up with how this works, and where's the money coming from? If you're almost explaining it to someone who hasn't fully kept up, because it's all changing rapidly now.
It is, and that's been one of the biggest developments, especially as the money has become a recruiting inducement and not just a reward for having already performed on a campus. So where it's coming from, the money's coming from boosters. It's coming from the fans. And, frankly, hey, in the 1980s, 90s, early 2000s, that money was getting to the athletes one way or another, usually under the table. Now it's at least above the table, right? So at least, okay, fine. We know that the Cadillac dealership is giving a car to the quarterback as opposed to having to guess where he got the car. We know, that they're getting clothing, meals, that sort of thing. Fine. In my opinion, it's okay. The players have earned it. It's not going to ruin the sport. It's all fine, but it is a big difference. And the funny thing has been listening to the dismay from the leaders here is like, wait a minute. Our boosters, we need them giving money to our athletic departments so we can build more facilities and pay for more assistant athletic directors and more staff. We don't need you giving that money directly to the players. The administrative panic that's involved here is kind of humorous.
What's the craziest deal you've seen? Either the most money thrown at a player or just the silliest stretch of an advertisement, like Nebraska with the coldest ever Dewitt Crawford doing the AC commercials. That might be my favorite.
That's an awesome one. I mean, that's a natural, and that's cool, and that's good. That's what NIL should be, right?
Yeah.
Some of the other stuff where, like Spencer Rattler, when he was at Oklahoma before he played a game last year, had 2 cars. And then he didn't play very well, and he gets benched, and then he transfers, and it's like, okay, I'm not sure that's NIL working out at its finest. Quinn Ewers, who was the quarterback from Texas, he was the high school player of the year, skipped his senior season to move to Ohio so that he could make money on NIL. Then he played 2 snaps, handed off twice, transferred, went to Texas, where he's now going to be the starter. But in March, I think it was, or April, before he'd been named the starter there, he had an Aston Martin deal. Okay, look, I mean, there's a lot of future speculation involved in business, but I feel a little bit better if you actually saw people who had performed getting the windfalls from these sort of deals.
Yeah, Olivia mentioned Nebraska just now, and I listened to your pod earlier this morning, and you guys did a great job talking about Scott Frost and that whole play call and all that, and just to finally unpack it. What exactly is he doing wrong? Is he just pressing? That was such a crazy play. I don't think I've ever seen that, actually.
It was like mind-numbingly stupid. It's just like unbelievable to think in that situation in a game you really have to win, and you're winning. It's working. You're up 11 points. Now we're just going to run a very low percentage onside kick here that's going to let them come right back in the game. I mean, you don't have to do that to win the game, I don't think. Northwestern's one of those teams, you kick off and make them go 80 yards, chances are they're probably not going to do it. And no, we're going to turn around. We're just going to turn the whole game right around there. Scott Frost has not been a good game manager. That's why he's 5-21 in one-score games. I mean, which is just a catastrophic record. It's hard to do, actually, to be that bad. So between personnel decisions, staff, I mean, they've just had everything go wrong. And, I didn't think they should have brought him back for this year. And I think what support he had for season number 5, a lot of that eroded very quickly with one bad onside kick decision and then all of the fallout from that.
Mm. Yeah, definitely a Hail Mary season for Scott Frost. So it's probably not going to be the Cornhuskers, but Jerry is looking for a team to pull for this year. He's a New York guy, Pat. He doesn't know what he's doing. He didn't go to a fun school like you and me, Mizzou and Georgia. He doesn't know this college football blueprint. What are some of your favorite fan bases? Let's find a team for Jerry.
Well, okay. I was thinking, first off, let's go outside of the box, outside of the usual suspects. Okay. We can get into the box and the usual ones. But, Jerry, I think for you, I like Coastal Carolina of the Sun Belt Conference. They got
Okay.
they've got some appeal. Like just like first of all, they're in Myrtle Beach, which is a fun place to go, right?
Great place to golf.
Right. Play some golf, go to the game. Their field is teal. Their artificial turf is teal colored, so it's not Boise blue, but it's its own version of that. Their quarterback, Grayson McCall, so he's a fifth-year guy, I believe. Anyway, he broke the pass efficiency record last year that had been held by Mac Jones, Joe Burrow, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield. So he's a really good player, and he's gone 22-3 as their starter. And everybody kind of figured, oh, this guy's going to transfer. He's going to go to a bigger school. You know, he's kind of hit that level, and he's going to work on his NFL game. His comment when he was coming back, Jerry, he said, "I piss teal." So that's the guy you want to root for. That's your quarterback right there. Wears excessive amounts of eye black. He's got a mullet. I mean, there's a lot to like. A lot of mullets on that team, and probably in the fan base as well. So highly entertaining. I go with Coastal Carolina.
So two things there, Pat. Number one, you really must know me because you just spoke to every ounce of my core with sports, which is I need the storyline. And two, I feel like if I was a college quarterback, that's exactly how I would be. Those are exactly things I would say. So that's very interesting. My team-in-law, as I speak about, my wife's family's from, Ohio, love Ohio State. I was getting wooed a little bit with Michigan. And then speaking of storylines, this is like right out of an episode of like Friday Night Lights with naming one quarterback for week one for week two. Is this real? I mean, or is this just a coach in Harbaugh who doesn't really know who his best quarterback is, or is he trying to play matchups? Explain this Michigan situation to me.
I think this is classic Harbaugh mad genius here.
Right.
I'm not sure I've heard of something like this where you're literally starting one quarterback week one and the next one week two, and you're announcing that 2 weeks beforehand. So I think what is at play is this. They're both legitimately very good quarterbacks. Cade McNamara, who's going to start week one against Colorado State, and then J.J. McCarthy, who's going to start week two against Hawaii. And then he's decided, we'll figure it all out for real week three. Couple things. First of all, the schedule's so bad that they can afford to do this. Okay, they're not playing a difficult schedule early. Secondly, this keeps both quarterbacks from transferring. Nobody's been benched yet.
Yep.
Nobody's out of a job. And the season's starting. And the semesters are starting, so you cannot just go and roll somewhere else. Now, maybe you could find a place that's on a quarter system and jump in late September. But even then, you're going to be ready to play. And so I think this is Harbaugh saying, I may or may not know who I like most, but I really want them both, and I'm going to do this to keep them both.
Wow.
That's pretty good. That's a good justification, too. A school that definitely knows their quarterback, and that is peace to him and to his family, is Georgia, Stetson Bennett. And I'm embarrassed to say, Pat, I teared up reading your cover story on the 6-year QB. I don't know if being a boy mom has made me very soft, or maybe it's a $6,000 bottle of Pappy Van Winkle. It just got me excited and teary. But the story is so damn good to begin with, and you wrote it so poignantly, as you always do. I love this line about Bennett. 80 minutes after the original meeting time, just when we're about to give up, Bennett comes through. Georgia fans can likely relate. So I don't want to give away all the fun details of this story, but just encapsulate it for me. What did you take away from your meeting with Bennett? What do you expect from the Bulldogs?
Yeah, thank you. He's a very interesting, charming guy. I mean, a little bit quirky, and he did keep me waiting for 80 minutes, but he was so good to talk to once I got with him, that it was like, that's fine, no problem. He just has that kind of wiseacre confidence in himself. It's like, I should have always been the quarterback at Georgia. I'm 5'9.5". Nobody really recruited me, but I should have been here all along, and they should have recruited me, and I'm going to show them. And that was basically his attitude when he showed up, and he just lived it. And, after year one, he really didn't think he was going to get to play. So we went to a junior college, and then on signing day, they said, hey, would you come back? And he's like, yeah, okay, I'll come back. And then he comes back and he tries to compete for the job, and they keep benching him and bringing in one transfer after another, putting them ahead of him. And then finally he gets the chance last year and leads him to the national championship. But as you know, Olivia, I mean, so many Georgia fans, so many different times were like, oh, he can't do it, including my son, who's a Georgia grad himself, that we need a different quarterback in there. keep rolling with him, and eventually he was going to pull it out, and he did. He was brilliant in the playoff. He had the one bad play against Alabama in the championship game, then he bounces back and leads 2 touchdown drives, and he's just one of those guys that's very easy, I think, for people to root for because of how far down the depth chart and really out of the picture he came to be a national championship quarterback.
I was sideline reporting for that SEC championship game, and before the game, Kirby Smart told us, the media, that he hadn't ruled out playing JT Daniels. I mean, the fact that that was so recent and right before he wins offensive MVP, you know, in the national championship game a couple weeks later, it's just wild. Can you recall another situation in all your years covering college football that was like that?
I don't. I can't. You know, I mean, you can find, you know, former walk-ons who did great things or whatever.
Sure.
And that sort, but like, as you said, this was somebody a lot of people wanted benched going into the playoff. I mean, not just at various points of the year, but going into the actual playoff games there. And then he shows up and just destroys Michigan. I mean, he was great. That was his best game, frankly, in the Orange Bowl there. And then he comes back and slays that Alabama Dragon. I mean, Alabama had Georgia's number, you know, like 4 or 5 times in a row. Painful losses, including in that SEC championship game. You get another shot against them. You have the better team. Georgia was the better team, but then it almost goes awry. He has the fumble. It sets up Alabama takes the lead. And right then and there, it's just like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, people are really going to kill Stetson Bennett now. Yeah. And then he comes back, you know, so it was just the perfect ending. And it's not over. Of course, he's going to have another year.
So good.
Yeah, I encourage everyone to read that article too. Something else really fast I loved from it was when his mom said, you know, he's still just Stet. I still have to tell him to change the oil in his car. That was like my mom when I started having a little bit of success at a young age. Like, you still have health insurance, right, Jerry? They SAG, your union gives you health insurance, right? I'm like, yes, Mom. Yes. Let's stick with UGA for a second. Obviously, you know, best defense in the nation last year. 8 of those players are now playing on Sunday in the NFL. You know, 5 were first rounders, lost some skill players on offense. You know, can they make it back? Were they able to reload enough, in your opinion? You know, because it's the SEC, you know. Can they get it? Can they get their way back?
I think they can, Jerry. I mean, I just think that they've recruited on such a high level in the last 4 years that they are replacing very talented players with very talented players who have kind of been waiting for their turn. The offense, I think, is going to be better than it was last year. The defense won't be as good, but, you know, I'm not sure anybody's going to have a defense that good for a long, long time. So, you know, instead of giving up 10 points a game, you give up 16, you're still going to win most of your games. And I actually, being in the SEC East is I think the easier side, although we'll see how it all plays out. But I look at their schedule. I think you get past Oregon in that opener, and they should, but that won't necessarily be an easy game. I think it opens up pretty well for them after that. And eventually you're going to have Tennessee and you're going to have Kentucky and an SEC championship game. But I'm not expecting a lot out of Florida. Now, Olivia knows sometimes that cocktail party can ruin your season even when you're least expecting it. But
it can also ruin your semester, Pat. As a student, that can be a doozy.
I can understand that.
A lot of breakups happen over that weekend.
I've been to that game. I've seen the drama in the parking lot, in the stands, and everywhere else. Yeah. But no, I expect Georgia to be really good and be right there in the playoff again.
Well, it seems like you always have to be worried about Alabama, but this season feels even more ominous, for lack of a better word, that, you know, Nick Saban called out Jimbo Fisher this offseason. He even said that last year was a rebuilding year, which is alarming considering they won the SEC championship. That's so bizarre. He just got this big pay raise, extension. Are there any games on the schedule that you think are losable, or do you think Alabama runs the table? They seem itching to get going.
Yeah, I mean, I think this will be one of the best Alabama teams, which is saying something. Their defense is going to get back to being really nasty, I believe. I think they have the best college football player in the country on defense. Not the Heisman Trophy winner, Bryce Young, the quarterback, but Will Anderson, the linebacker. They've got some transfers that need to come through, but they should. The schedule, I don't think, is that difficult for them. But it's the SEC West, so there's going to be some tough games in there. I think everybody is circling October 8th, not just in red, but in blood, because that's Texas A&M. And after the Jimbo, Nick Saban hissing match for May. Everybody's going to want to see that game. Arkansas is not bad. I don't think LSU's great this year, but like the Mississippi game falls on a tricky place on the schedule. The Tennessee game, they have just trampled Tennessee for years, and I think Tennessee's better, and that falls in a little bit of a tricky spot. So, they'll have some challenges, but I would be very surprised if we're not seeing them in the SEC championship game and probably undefeated at that point.
Sure.
Sticking with coaches, USC, new coach, Lincoln Riley. They'll also, have a new conference with their move. Do you think USC can be a playoff contender? Right now, I think they're the slight favorite in the Pac-12 with Utah. And, I spent 20 years in LA. I've never really took to USC or UCLA. So I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on USC.
Well, I mean, if you're looking for a B team after, going bi-coastal and you're going to Myrtle Beach and you're being with Coastal Carolina,
right?
USC would not be a bad bandwagon to hop on right now because they're getting better in a hurry. I mean, the transfers they brought in are ridiculous. Lincoln Riley's a very talented coach. I don't think they're ready yet defensively. I mean, they were terrible last year, and I can see them getting better from that, but I'm not sure you get championship or playoff better. I think Utah might be better than them in the Pac-12, but I expect USC to be back to being really entertaining and grab some of that LA spotlight and the games in the Coliseum being fun. And, man, when they're good, the games in the Coliseum rock. I mean, it is really, really fun to go there to watch like the Pete Carroll teams. And they can get back to having a lot of buzz about them and win certainly more than they lose, and maybe 8-9 games, maybe even 10. I don't know. But I think we will not be long before we're talking about USC as a playoff team. Maybe not this year, but soon.
I'm sticking with your first call because I couldn't root for USC when they were so good when I was in LA. It's Reggie Bush years. That's too front runner. Your first call was great. Okay. Your first call was great for me.
Coastal Carolina it is.
It's almost overwhelming, all of the conference realignment. The Big Ten's becoming this monster. There's no geographical reason to it. Like you mentioned earlier, it could stretch from Rutgers and Maryland to Southern California, and then speculation up to Oregon and Washington. What do you know in this story? What happens next year?
Oh, boy. I wish I knew. The speculation, there's a different rumor every day. But I think that we are kind of in a period of stabilization for now. Does that last a year? Maybe less, but I would think at least a year. The big lever that can change everything is Notre Dame. Everybody wants Notre Dame. Notre Dame doesn't want anybody. They want to be independent. They want to stay that way. And I think they can do it at least for another year. Their media rights come up, I think, in 2023, maybe 24. They are confident that they're going to get a good enough deal from NBC to remain independent. And that would alleviate the pressure for them to go anywhere. And that's one way of stopping the realignment wheels. It's not every way, but then so that at least I think gives us a momentary kind of stasis. And then we'll see, I had Big Ten sources say we are not done expanding flatly. Yeah. But the timeline they gave was 3 to 5 years. So in 3 to 5 years, does the Big Ten and SEC say, okay, we're finally ready to move and just eat the other conferences, and we're going to take the best from the remaining leagues? And is it Washington, Oregon? Is it Washington, Oregon, Stanford, California? Is it North Carolina, Clemson, Florida State, Miami, the schools that are kind of hamstrung by their long grant of rights thing with the ACC? I mean, I don't know. I have a feeling we are going to end up with 2 basically 20-team conferences that kind of rule everything, but there's a lot of intrigue still to be hashed out.
That's back to your big fear. It's going to be the AFC and the NFC.
Right. Exactly. And again, I don't think that's best for college football, but I'm not sure anybody's looking out for what's best in college football.
How do you feel about this, the transfer portal offseason? Do you declare a winner? Is there a winner in your mind? And also, I need a better name than the transfer portal. I'm just saying, I get it. I could use a better thing than the transfer portal. It just sounds, I don't know, something with Back to the Future, maybe. I don't know, something better than the transfer portal. But do you have is there a winner? Do we declare winners? Is there one that stood out to you as someone who really took advantage?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we have to declare winners and losers of everything, of course. And I'll get research and development working on a better team and see what we can, or better name, see what we can come up with there. But
Thanks, Pat.
Yeah, we're on it. But you know, you got to kind of wait to see how the games play. Like last year, nobody knew Michigan State was the transfer portal winner until they started playing. Then it's like, oh my God, they got all the good guys out of there. But this year on paper, USC, huge transfer portal winner, quarterback, receivers, running back. I think Oklahoma did well in the portal, but they also had to replace a lot of guys who left to go to USC. Trying to think, Alabama very strategically did it, and that's kind of the advantage of being Nick Saban. It's like, yeah, we've got 19 five-star guys, but we kind of have a little hole at left tackle and maybe a running back and a receiver. Let's just go get the best ones. And so, they go and plunder from lesser schools. But again, we got to see them play out on the field and how they actually look. But I would say USC and Alabama kind of jump out as the two that probably did the best.
So, Pat, we are a betting show, obviously, and we like to play games with our guests. So we're calling this one Pat's Picks. Could you just, very easy, give us your winner for each Power 5 conference?
Okay, winner for each Power 5 conference. Shockingly, I'm going to go with Alabama. Okay. Shockingly, I'm going to go with Ohio State. Give me Utah in the Pac-12.
Love it.
Give me Clemson in the ACC, but I think NC State or Wake Forest could maybe pull an upset there. And then Big 12 to me is like, I don't know, but I'm going to say Baylor in the Big 12.
Okay, why Baylor?
I don't know. No, I mean they are just they're really solidly built now. Their offensive defensive lines are great, and that has become a line of scrimmage league a little bit more. It used to be just 55 to 45, and that's changed. Their defense was the best in the league last year. They should be good again. Well, them and Oklahoma State. And Oklahoma State lost a lot, including their coordinator. They're bringing in a new quarterback who was on the team last year, but they basically demoted last year's guy, Jerry Bohannon, and we're bringing up Blake Shapen, who, when he has played, has been really good. So Jerry Bohannon transferred. He hit the portal. Dave Aranda's kind of got that mojo as a coach. I mean, he's like this Zen master kind of guy. He's different than other coaches, and it really seems to be working. Some people thought that he was so kind of introverted and intellectual that it wouldn't work for him as a head coach, and so some people passed on him. Baylor's like, all right, we'll take it, and it was like, oh boy, it's working out. And I think that will only continue to get better. The old, as you know, Olivia, the phrase "coaches love culture." He's a good culture builder.
Oh, I love it. Yep. What about bad teams win total? I mentioned earlier you went to Mizzou, so Kansas is, I can't even say a rival, but Kansas is a team that has a very low win total. So they're 2.5 right now. If you had to guess, Kansas, do they get 3 wins?
Okay, gosh. See, I thought you were just originally going bad teams. You went to Mizzou. I thought you were just going straight aggressive attack there on my alma mater, which I couldn't really dispute completely.
Yeah.
But no, all right, I'm looking at Kansas's schedule right now. I think they get 3. I think they hired a really good coach in Lance Leipold. We saw a little peek of that last year when they beat Texas. They open with Tennessee Tech. They're going to win that. They get Duke at home. They can beat Duke. All you got to do is scrape out one Big 12 win there. They can do it. It is like you're climbing Mount Everest in snowshoes, so it's not easy. But I think Kansas is going to continue to move up and get better gradually through the years here.
I think some people would be surprised to see Arizona's win total is just 3. Do you think they get more than 3 wins?
Boy, yeah, they were bad last year.
They were.
Jed Fish has recruited very well, but that's the kind of thing that may only it's going to take a little bit. The total is 3, you said?
Yeah.
I don't like it. Because I got San Diego State, who's better than they are, even though they're not in the Power 5 league. Then they got Mississippi State. They're going to start 0-2. They can beat, they got North Dakota State. They're the best 1AA or FCS team.
Sure.
They're not. Who did their non-conference scheduling? Fire the AD. I don't see 3 wins on the schedule for Arizona. Give me the under.
Do you manage to sleep Friday night? What's your Or is it just like the calm? I talked to a boxer about this, Mickey Ward. I said, night before fight night, are you sleeping or are you wide awake? He's like, oh no, I sleep. All the work's done.
Really?
So I'm asking you, not that this is a fight for you, but Saturday, it's going to be an amazing slate. What's your Friday night like? You like, I gotta get to bed early, or are you just wired?
I'm wired. I'm wired all week. It's been funny. I've been like waking up at 6 a.m. every day, which I do not do. But I've been, just constantly thinking, what are the stories? What's going to happen? Blah, 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 blah. And so, there's good games Thursday night. I'll watch those. And then there's a couple interesting games Friday night. So I will be watching throughout, and I will not be sleeping well. And then Saturday night, I'll be at Notre Dame, Ohio State, be in the Horseshoe. I live in Louisville, Kentucky, so it's only a 3-hour drive. So I'll drive up in the morning just to get that atmosphere and everything, and then soak in the game. And then we got a game Sunday night. We got a game Monday night. So it's on. It's fun.
Yeah, Buckeyes are a 17-point favorite in that game. Do you think that's a little too generous? Help our listeners out.
I don't. That's a big number. It's a big number for sure. And like Notre Dame is no slouch, but I don't like Notre Dame's situation coming into this game. Quarterback hadn't ever started before. Coach hadn't coached. Well, he coached the bowl game, but this is his first game, and they're on the road, and it's his alma mater. I mean, Marcus Freeman is an incredibly composed guy, but there's going to be some emotions churning in him there going into the Horseshoe as the bad guy. And then their best offensive lineman, Jarrett Patterson's been banged up in practice, and they're not sure how available he will be. And I look at Ohio State, and I think that they have the personnel and the hunger this year, to be extremely good. And so I think they're coming out guns blazing. And if they're better on defense, then I think it's going to be a long night for Notre Dame.
All right.
I'm trying to figure out which Coastal Carolina game I'm going to go to. I'm looking at their schedule.
The travel schedule.
Yeah, I'm looking at the travel schedule. I do like James Madison, November 26th, day after my birthday. Virginia game could be fun. Thank you for helping me find the team. You just settled this. This could have lasted all season, and I really think you just nipped it in the bud for me. Thank you.
Here's the thing. If it's November 26th, you got months to grow out your mullet and fit right in with the crew there, I mean,
I could grow a good mullet too.
Yeah.
I could grow a good mullet too. No, I'm in. You just solved it for me. Very excited. I can't wait. We're going to defeat Gardner Webb September 10th. I'm going to tell you that.
Right on. We should all road trip with you to Myrtle Beach. Let's do it.
That would be good content. If you're in for that, I would love to just watch a football game with you.
I'm in.
Pat, I've got one more for you. What argument would you make to say that college sports will be fine, thrive even in this new era to doubters?
The argument I would make is that people have tried for decades to screw up college sports and still haven't been able to completely do it. Like, it's almost foolproof. It's almost idiot-proof because there's been a lot of idiots trying to do, stupid things. And it doesn't seem to matter whether there's leadership and whether there's direction, whether there's parity and whether there's corruption. Nothing matters. It's like the games are still awesome, right? We turn them on Saturday and everybody watches. Nebraska Northwestern, I just saw, did like 4.4 million viewers from Ireland for two teams that are going to probably finish in the middle of the Big Ten pack at best. So the games themselves save the sport. The actual Saturdays, the competition, the crazy things that happen, the upsets, the drama, the atmosphere, the fans, no matter how much the leaders and the administrators tend to get things wrong, I just don't think that you can blow it up completely. You can diminish a lot of the charm of it. But boy, you turn on that TV or you're in person in the stadium on Saturday, it's like, this is still a pretty cool product.
Boy, if that doesn't get you fired up, I don't know what will. That's great stuff.
Yeah, thank you, Pat. Appreciate your time. I hope you come back. Your pod's awesome. The Sports Illustrated article was great. I hope you come back and visit, and I really would love to watch a game with you one of these days.
Thank you. Let's do it, and I'd be happy to be on anytime. Great questions. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
And you can follow Pat on Twitter by Pat Forde. Please come back on the show. It was great having you. Enjoy the season. Safe travels.
All right. Thanks.
Okay, I'm still on season 2 of Entourage. I really got to work at a higher clip here. I've got to watch faster, but I'm doing the best I can. I'm 29. There's a lot of shit going on. But I am loving season 2. Everything is getting, there's a little bit more depth now. We're getting more into the characters, but still celebrity cameo after celebrity cameo. Now we have Mandy Moore. Has there ever been an A-list cameo who has left you kind of starstruck? Like, has anyone really thrown you on your back foot?
So look, you'll be able to see as the show progresses, right? Like early on season 1, I think Wahlberg had to like beg, borrow to get people to do the show because no one really knew who we were and
Sure.
they didn't want to play themselves. They didn't know if the joke was on them. You know, once they kind of saw, look, we're not trying to make fun of you. We're trying to like laugh with you. The cameos kind of stepped up for me. And obviously I respect all the actors we've had. I, of course, loved when the athletes would come on.
Sure.
And I don't want to spoil too much. But saying their name, like there's a big Tom Brady episode coming your way. That one was really cool. That's an obvious one. There's another episode we had LeBron and Matt Damon in the same scenes.
Oh my God.
Along with Bono from U2. That was a pretty surreal lineup of just, that one was pretty surreal. And I remember we all kind of just knew how special it was in the moment. I'm going to throw you a curveball though.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I loved all the cameos, the best part, not starstruck, but just when I found myself really just thinking, wow, this is unbelievable. We shot courtside at Laker games over the years. And we have a Kobe Bryant story that happened while we were shooting at a game. I don't know if you want that story now.
Yeah, give it to me.
So we were shooting live at Staples Center, which is something they did not want to do. It was the five of us courtside watching a game. Kobe was actually injured at the time. So, of course, we're shooting at a Laker game. We're watching like Smush Parker. No disrespect to Smush Parker, but no Kobe Bryant. So we get there at like 3 o'clock to kind of get our camera guys and do a light rehearsal, seeing the space. And Kobe's out there, and it was a foot injury. So he has some kind of brace on, and he's out there like shooting around in like sweats by himself. And we're out there in courtside doing our rehearsal, but now everyone's watching Kobe just shooting jumpers and like getting a little sweat. So he comes over to us and he's like, $100 a shot from half court. I'm like, we're like, us? He's like, no, me. We're not betting against you. He's like, okay, lefty, $100 a shot. Now the guy's also on one leg, by the way. So we're like, done for sure. So lines up the first shot, misses. Okay, now everyone's over. Lines up the second shot, half court off 1 foot, lefty, misses the second shot. Misses the third, misses the fourth, gets to the fifth. He's like, all right, this is the last shot. And I think he threw another 100 on it, something like that. So it was like a $200 shot. Launches, lefty shot off of one leg. Thing is on track. It's on line. It's beautiful. Gets to the hoop, rattles in, and falls out and doesn't go in. And he was pissed. He was not like laughing like we were. He kind of stormed out. Didn't even really say goodbye. And also didn't give us our money. So we were like,
no.
I'm like, did he just sort of fake us out with a story? What was that? But we were just amazed and honestly felt honored to like see that moment. So now the game's going on. We're shooting our stuff, watching the game, acting, all that stuff. It's like a very, very famous episode and very, very famous scene. So halftime, guy runs out to us, some kind of equipment manager or something, and runs up to the five of us and just starts peeling off $100 bills saying, this is from Kobe. And he hands us each like whatever it was, 400 or 500, but just peeling off money. It looks like we're doing like some kind of drug deal at halftime. This dude, middle of 20,000 people, this dude's handing us $100 bills. And
each one
he's like, this is from Kobe. Yeah, I think it was like a guy or something like that. Again, the exact numbers might be a little fuzzy, but I'm in the ballpark, and this is all real, verifiable with the other guys from the show. And he paid us whatever, a couple of $100 it was, and just was like, yeah, that's from Kobe, and walked out. And then we made eye contact with him a few times from across the bench, and I think he was like pissed that he didn't make the shot. So
I'm sure
that was a surreal entourage moment that I will never, ever forget. We all still talk about it to this day. Surreal moment.
Oh my God. Everyone's got a great Kobe story who spent time around LA at that time, but that's a pretty good one. Rest in peace, Kobe Bryant. That's a great story.
All right, it's time, everybody. Let's break down these games with our BetMGM betting analyst, our odds-on favorite, Peter Andreu. Peter, you're kind of becoming an unleashed troll here. Last week, You show up with a Niners jersey. I thought you were going to come in another jersey, wearing more jerseys than my character Turtle did on Entourage. Well, I can't see what you're quite wearing right now.
Don't worry. Someone on this call is a Georgia alumni, Georgia fan, so I decided to rock my Bama shirt.
So disrespectful.
You're not an Unleashed troll. You're an Olivia troll. And now I'm just sick of this. But you are wearing what? Is that West Ham United hat? So I've got to find
West
my
Ham
football
United?
team.
You got your choices cut out for you.
Isn't Arsenal leading right now?
For now. This is how every year starts.
Peter, I feel like I could really kind of go at you now. We're getting to know each other. It's coming. We're coming around. You know, I saw your Mike Tyson thing in your background there. We'll talk about that off the air. But you kind of trashed me for my lottery ticket Seahawks bet. Again, lottery ticket being the big words in that statement. And then I wake up to this tweet. It was an Action Network tweet that says the Seahawks to win the Super Bowl. Better on BetMGM wagered $1,300 on the Seattle Seahawks plus 20,000 to be the champs to win $260K. Are we becoming the trendy pick now, the Seattle Seahawks?
This is why I need a blue check mark against my name on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah.
Because clearly it's got some clout with it and people are listening. I don't know what's happening. Maybe you are onto something. Maybe I've been dead wrong this whole time. So I guess we'll see. Week 1's about 10, 12 days away from us. Time will tell.
All right, before we get into college football, which is what we want to talk to you about, though, what odds would you put on me being the person who bet the 1,300 on the Seahawks to win the Super Bowl?
I got it right now, minus 350, but it's been moving the opposite direction, so it's almost a lock.
It might be a big reveal at the end of Unleashed, where maybe I'll just show that ticket. Maybe it's me. It could be me, guys. It could be me. But I know we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about some college football today.
Yeah, and I want to start with what we talked about with Pat Forde was the Notre Dame at Ohio State game. Vegas expecting these to be a bit of a stinker, 17.5-point spread, favoring the Buckeyes at home. What do you think about that one, Pete?
Yeah, 17.5 up from 14.5 in just a couple of days. So there was some quote unquote sharp money that pushed that line to 17.5. Ohio State's going to be good this year. They're going to be really good. They're probably the second best team in NCAA, maybe the first. Them and Bama are really close, but it's going to take some time to reproduce what they lost. So they lost Garrett Wilson to the Jets, Chris Olave to the Saints. That's a lot of production right off the bat, week 1. They're coming in, they're at home, but they're playing a top 5 team. I think they win. They probably win by that 10 to 14 range, but top 5 Notre Dame team, great defense, a lot of returning players. I just don't see them winning by 18, 19, 20 points. Seems like a lot for week 1. And I think Ohio State's going to take some time for them to get to that point where they become that 1 or 2 team respectively in NCAA.
Okay, Notre Dame to cover. I like that one. What about Ole Miss and Troy? 21.5-point spread favoring the Rebels.
Yeah, so I'm admittedly a Lane Kiffin guy, so I'm always kind of
me too
on his side. And just such a oddball. They did a really good job in the transfer portal this year. Jackson Dart, Michael Trigger. Jackson Dart is backup to Caleb Williams last year at USC, so comes in at quarterback for Ole Miss. I think they've done a really good job there. Zach Evans from TCU as well. They have the offensive firepower they need. Troy's actually a relatively good offensive team, so I think they will put up points. But I think at the end of the day, Ole Miss is just going to come away, run away with it, fourth quarter, probably blow it out. I think they cover that 21-5 pretty easily.
Don't you love Lane Kiffin stealing a USC kid? Like just a major FU to the Trojans. Did him dirty.
And the best is just no one expects differently. I think that's the best part about it.
What else sticking out to you this Saturday? Is there anything else that you just kind of got your hooks into, or is it too soon to tell, or do you already have it kind of done in your mind?
I think, in terms of games on Saturday, I think I'm waiting for lines to move, but there are 2 things I'm looking for. Heisman value, I think, is really important to get ahead of for week 1. So you have, I just mentioned him before, Caleb Williams. He's plus 600 right now. USC stud. They are loaded with weapons. So I really like taking him at plus 600. He comes out firing. I think it's a number that can drop pretty dramatically. And more so, staying out west in the Pac-12, Cameron Rising, so the Utah quarterback, he's plus 6,600 right now. They have a ton of weapons. They play Florida this week. If they come out upset Florida, or actually I think they're favorited, but if they come out national television, beat Florida, I promise you it's going to be because of him, and that number is not going to be plus 6,600 anymore. That's going to be something like 30-1 or 20-1 because he's going to come and ball out. So take the value while you can. Those numbers are going to change dramatically. Heisman is obviously always up in the air. You never know if Bryce Young has a stinker. You end up getting him in week 2, week 3 at better value.
Yeah.
It's always going to fluctuate. So you just got to find the right price that you're comfortable with, taking the lottery ticket, and then you never know. See what happens.
Okay, Pete, how about conference winners? Let's start in the SEC. We've already talked a lot about Alabama. And hey, they play Texas week 2. And that also, I think, was a 17 and a half point spread. Why do you think that's such a big spread? People are really underestimating the Longhorns.
I am one of them that's underestimating them. I am one of those that are underestimating them too, but it's all to do with Bama's loaded offense. I mean, Bryce Young, probably the best defensive player in football. Will Anderson Jr., outside linebacker, probably a top 5 pick. And then you have Jahmyr Gibbs, the Georgia Tech running back who comes in. They are absolutely loaded. I mean, he's probably the best running back besides Bijan Robinson, who's on the other side of the ball in week 2. But they're pissed off. I think that team, I heard Tebow say this. They don't want to just come and beat you. They want to dominate and blow you out. And after last year, obviously losing national title, I think they're coming out with that big chip on their shoulder. The price, I think, is minus 140. I know it's a little bit chalky, but all things considered, that could be minus 500 by week 3, week 4, especially if there are some upsets in the SEC.
To win the SEC.
So I think you take that. Yeah, I think you take that. Don't look back. That's probably the best price you're going to find throughout the season.
What do you got for Big Ten? Because that's a very big conversation.
Your
in my
Michigan
household.
Wolverines.
So, my Michigan Wolverines getting courted by the Michigan
official?
Wolverines.
Are we officially a Michigan Wolverine fan now?
That's
We
his
might
team.
be. I'm also starting week 3 at quarterback, so we're alternating now 3 quarterbacks per week. So I'm starting week 3. So yeah, the Big Ten's a big conversation in my house.
I was going to try to get you to become a Miami Hurricanes fan because their Ohio State rivalry back in the early 2000s could have been a good one, but been a long time. But back to what we talked about, Ohio State is absolutely loaded. I mean, minus 225. Michigan, I think, is 6-1. Wisconsin, 12-1. Wisconsin's a great team, but they have to replace 7-8 people,
defense.
I think, on defense. So they'll get that production on defense, but they're replacing a lot of people that they lost last year. Jim Leonard, who's the old Ravens, Jets DB, I think he's going to be a really good coach. He already is probably. But it's going to take some time to get them back to that level that they need to, and it's probably not this year. I mean, again, you have all these weapons in Ohio State. It's hard. It's really hard. Marvin Harrison Jr., Jackson Smith and Jigba. I mean, they are loaded at wide receiver. It's just going to take time for those guys to get really, comfortable and assume that spot as 1 and 2. And I think it's again a little bit chalky, but minus 225 again might be the best price. You may want to wait if you really feel good about Notre Dame after week 1 and think there's an upset in order. You might wait to take that price week 2, but then you're going to obviously pay the price if they win and blow them out because it'll be close to minus 400 probably after week 1.
Boy, you're really chalky. Let's move on. ACC, Miami at plus 550. That's your pick, and that's a lot of value. Why the Hurricanes?
Yeah. So trying to, again, take a little bit of that homer bias aside. Love the Canes, but Mario Cristobal, I mean, this is a team that should have been really good last year under Manny Diaz in the last couple of years, and they just have not been able to get the most out of it. They're coming in this year, new offensive coordinator, Tyler Van Dyke back for year 2. I think they're going to be really good. They're going to win, I think, the Coastal fairly easily. They'll play Clemson in the ACC title game. It's all about just an upset there. So, again, value rather than just taking the chalky Clemson. I think you take the plus 550, better than the minus 300 that it is for Clemson. And again, they should run away with the Coastal division, and playing either NC State or Clemson, they've got a shot. So I just don't want to take all chalk here. It's worth the value because they are going to get to that title game probably pretty easy.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is chalk for you. I mean, I'm a former West Coast guy, 20 years out in LA, never took to UCLA or USC, just couldn't bring myself to do it. I think the Pac-12 is real interesting this year. But I'm curious, do you have a pick? Is it chalk for you there? It's not really chalk in my opinion, but
yeah, I think everything points to Utah probably being the smart pick.
yeah.
Plus 225. But something about Lincoln Riley with that offense just really intrigues me. So I think they're plus 200. So they're pretty much neck and neck. I mean, Jordan Addison, who won the Biletnikoff last year. You have Caleb Williams, Travis Dye, Mario Williams. That's a loaded offense. Again, Utah is the smart pick because they have a really good front five on offense. They have a really good defense. They can get to the quarterback. We obviously talked. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. We talked about Cameron Rising, obviously being probably a Heisman hopeful, especially after potential week 1 against Florida. But something about USC just really drives me towards thinking they're going to be loaded this year. Again, Lincoln Riley, proven coach, new scenario. I think he comes out really impresses year 1.
Oh, yeah. And he knows how to produce a Heisman winning quarterback. So that adds to your Caleb Williams argument at plus 600 to win the Heisman. Okay, another value pick as you were texting me your picks. I like this one. Kansas State plus 1,200. Why do you like them in the Big 12?
One player that really sticks out to me is running back Deuce Vaughn. I mean, he does it all. Short, stocky guy, great out of the backfield where he's catching the ball. Obviously, super explosive, very, very reminiscent of a guy like Darren Sproles, who, by the way, was also a K-State running back in his day. I don't know what it is about them. They just really intriguing team. They can catch fire. Again, you have the OUs and the Texas of the world that are obviously favorite, but I want to take a flyer on them. I think they are a top 25 team. They can be, and I think a couple of lucky wins, they find themselves in that position. Again, it's a value pick. You might catch Texas or OU at something a little bit better than plus 200, plus 300. So why not take them right now while they're 12-1? Let's see what happens.
I like that. That was a good mix. Good mix of chalk and value, Peter Andrew. You're giving us a decent preview here. Yeah, that was great.
All right, Peter, anything BetMGM's running? I mean, being that, we're now in the time that we all love of the year. Anything special MGM's running?
Yeah, week 0 wasn't too flattering and exciting, but this is the week. Obviously, we talked about a bunch of big games. We're giving every single customer on BetMGM a risk-free token for any college football bet. So literally all you have to do, log into your account, pick whatever bet you want, and you're going to have this risk-free token in your bet slip. All you have to do is apply it. If you lose your bet, you get your stake right back. So really nice way to get customers back in. It's about to be crazy the next 2-3 weeks with NFL starting, but want to get people in for college football this weekend for sure.
I got one quick thing left for you. Okay. You have a Mike Tyson's Punch Out piece of art in your backdrop. I have a Mike Tyson's Punch Out piece of art in my backdrop. I don't think you could see it. I'm giving you 2-1 odds right now. Do you remember the code in Mike Tyson's Punch Out to get directly up to Mike Tyson?
Oh my God.
2-1. And I would have bet on you, by the way. I would have bet on you to do this. And now I feel like I would have lost money on you.
You would have lost money on me. This is why the sports books do well, because you gave me good odds and I don't remember it.
You're probably going to think I looked it up, but it's 007-373-5963. If you think I'm joking, it's 007-373-5963. Code to get directly up to Mike Tyson. I'm old though, Peter. I'm old.
I know. Isn't it funny though how you remember those codes from back in the day? Like I remember my game, so I'm 34, Aladdin on Sega Genesis. ABBAABBA gets you to the next level in Aladdin.
It's like tattooed in your brain. So I couldn't let that slide. Great piece of art in your backdrop there, though.
Thanks, brother. Crazy the things we remember. I can't remember what I ate yesterday, though.
All right, Peter. All right, Olivia, it's my least favorite part of the show. The show is over. We're wrapping up, but full slate of college football coming up. I cannot wait, and we don't have to wait too much longer for the NFL. We got Ian Rappaport coming next week, which I'm very excited about.
That will be great. And Jay Glazer the week after that. So we're bringing in the big guns here for the NFL season.
Locked and loaded. So, London Olivia is going to be, I'll stop calling you that after this week. Don't worry. It's just for this week. Your backdrop looks great. We'll see everybody next week.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.